Amitabh Tiwari, your first reactions.
Clearly, we have to analyze this in two aspects. One is when you compare this to the Lok Sabha elections, the NDA seems to have recovered, and that's largely because of the recoup of losses in Haryana and Maharashtra. However, when you compare this to your last MOTN, which was in February, the losses significantly would pertain, I would guess, to the loss of support amongst the middle class because of the ceasefire issue and the Trump tariffs. It seems that the core vote block of the BJP, which would otherwise, like in a Balakot scenario or earlier also during the Uri surgical strike, etc., which should have propelled BJP's seat share and perhaps even the vote share of the NDA in a post-Operation Sindhu scenario, which has been a grand success. Despite that, there seems to be a decline of some loss of seats. However, having said that, it clearly also shows that in these tumultuous times, still the country is backing the Prime Minister and the NDA to take the country through. Yashwantji was talking about the baseline numbers. If the BJP vote share is 41%, it means that the Modi factor vote is still 10% to 14%. So, this 10% to 14% of the voters are non hardcore ideological backers of the NDA or the BJP because of Modi. And despite the Operation Sindoor or the, let's say, the Trump tariffs and the uh, 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 ceasefire, they still do not seem to have the confidence in Rahul Gandhi to lead the country out of this time. So, unless this 10% to 14% supporters of the NDA, largely because of Prime Minister Modi, shift from BJP or NDA to the India bloc, it is very, very difficult for to have a change of guard at the center. And that brings us to the
I'll come
communication.
to the states in a moment, Amitabh. We have a separate segment on the states. I'll come to that. But Sanjay Jha, that's a useful point to pick up on. You see, at the end of the day, you're also only as good or bad as your opponents are. What the polls are clearly showing is that the opposition, primarily the Congress, while making incremental gains, is still substantially behind the BJP. And therefore, even despite the possibility of anti-incumbency, people still don't have enough confidence in the opposition to actually switch their votes. Unless you get votes to switch, you're not going to get a government to change.
Rajdeep, good evening to you and to my fellow panelists. I want to make just 2 points really. Number one, please remember that a lot of these polls, and maybe Yashwant can correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these polls have an inherent bias because of the timing. Now, Mr. Modi is just 1 year plus in this government. Anybody who participates in the poll knows that willy-nilly this government ought to survive. I hope it doesn't, but it might survive till this entire 2029. So that to a great extent influences your view because you realize that you may participate in a poll without making any material impact of your
Been
opinion.
in power 11 years. You know, the mood of the nation has, over the last 11 years, consistently shown these numbers, barring, as I said, that poll in August of 2021 after COVID 2.0.
No, but I'll tell you, Razi, why you need to hear my second statement that juxtaposes the first. And I'll tell you why I'm not very convinced by these numbers, and that's my reasoning. Mr. Modi's entire success since 2014 has been built on his strong man imagery, right? Everyone sees him as a leader who takes decisive calls, even if it's a blunder like demonetization. He gets away with it because people see a virtue even in a step that may be extremely infantile. Here is 3 points that I would like to put on the table for conversation. Look
Yes.
at three distinctive tailwinds that he's faced. Number one, what Maria pointed out, Operation Sindoor, the Pahalgam terror attack, I think is severely dented his image of that muscular hero, the hyper nationalistic narrative. I think that stands busted. I completely agree with what Maria said. I think that's peaked and is probably on the decline. The second also is going to be on the tariffs. I'm telling you, Rajdeep, as a student of economics, and I look at these numbers very closely, when the impact of these tariffs hit India progressively over the coming few weeks and months, and the job losses actually aggravate, you might see a great degree of resistance to Mr. Modi's ability to change it by talking of Swadeshi, etc. I think eventually people are hurting. And the third point is vote chori. I think on vote chori, Rahul Gandhi's campaign or the national imagination that it has caught is denting the governance record of this government absolutely irretrievably. I think all these will have consequences.
Matters, we only can go by the numbers that are there. The numbers are clearly showing that the Prime Minister is holding firm in terms relatively, certainly in comparison to his opponents. Interestingly, you stayed away from discussing the state of the opposition. We'll come back to that. But Tuhin Sinha, you want to respond to these numbers? Do they give you a sense of satisfaction? Or on the flip side, you are actually not doing as well in August of 2025 compared to 6 months ago. In that sense, the momentum is not with you.
Well, good evening, Rajdeep. Good evening, everybody. I would say these numbers are fairly positive for the BJP. The last few months have been challenging for the country. Even after the historic success of Operation Sindoor, we saw the opposition openly taking an anti-India line and calling a victory a surrender. You know, we had those challenges. We had the tariff crisis. In spite of that, people seem to believe that the only leader who is equipped to deal with these challenges successfully is Prime Minister Modi. So I would much rather compare your findings with the 2024 elections. You know, compared to that, you are
Still
showing
not over
26
272.
increase.
You see, there are two ways to look at it. Even in 2024, you got 240 seats. You're still at 260. You're not going beyond
So
271 on your own.
I'm saying your present polls are after a somewhat challenging phase. In the next 3.5 years, there will be easy phases when we will shoot up to 300. So, you know, these 6 monthly
But
MOTNs.
Mr. Tuhin Sinha, can I ask you one quick question? If one was to believe with what you're saying, that the opposition with their perception of how they handled the entire Operation Sindoor is being considered anti-national, it should show then, because the opposition has actually seen a 1% rise. While there seems to be a stagnation with the NDA.
No, Preeti, the point is for the first few days after the Operation Sindoor was halted, they managed to, sway the public and make them seem that we had
So you agree
given
in
up
that
our interest.
context?
But when the truth prevailed,
Okay.
your polls are pretty much on the same level that it was, in 6 months ago. So I don't see any significant loss for the BJP. Rather, now that we have successfully gotten over the challenging phase, things are only going to get better from here. And, like I said, 3.5 years is a very long time. If we have retained this in a challenging phase, we will shoot up from here in the better phases.
Okay, there could be challenging times, of course, up ahead, but there are two narratives therefore playing out. One narrative is Modi holding firm, which is your cover story. The other is Modi holding firm, but. And there is also the question of the opposition itself. You're only as good, as I said earlier, as your opposition is. People still have faith in Modi compared to the opposition. Ultimately, you compare the two. Is that what really the mood of the nation shows? That yes, there are concerns, but we're still not certain that the opposition is in a better position than Mr. Modi to be able to deliver.
I think it's just a little different from that. Yes, the opposition doesn't so far bring in the kind of confidence that can run the country, as Mr. Modi has been doing or the BJP has been doing. But also there are, let's put it this way, conditions apply to the support that has been given to Mr. Modi this time and the BJP. And those conditions, if you look at the economic side of it, they're deeply concerned with the economy and its progress. This worry is going to deepen as the tariff war escalates and you see a lot of joblessness happening or people losing businesses. And therefore, while they say, look, we still believe you're the best guy to handle this situation, the best leader to handle this situation, remember, these are the things. And therefore, if you see, there's no great bump that happens during Sindoor because people are
So
now
has he
watchful.
plateaued? You see, the flip side is, has Mr. Modi plateaued? Has the momentum that you had of the muscular strongman, of this nationalist strongman, you've got what you can. You're not getting any more out of that. You're going to need something extra. Is there a sense, Maria, you made a very good point about this whole nationalist drive. Post-Operation Sindoor, there was, unlike Balakot, where Mr. Modi's ratings just zoomed, as did that of the BJP. Now, even if Mr. Modi's ratings may not have dipped substantially, the BJP no longer is the dominant 300-plus party as per these numbers. Do you sense that there has been an arresting of the Modi momentum?
So if you look at what happened in surgical strikes, it happens September 2016. UP elections happen in 2017, and we see the results. It's a landslide victory. Aerial or Balakot airstrikes happen in February 2019. Lok Sabha elections happen a few months later. It's a landslide again. I think while we look at that comparison that you're speaking about, that you are as good as the opposition, one question which could have emerged in this mood of the nation was that what do people think about an institution called the Election Commission? Because the first real
We'll
test...
come to all those. We've got all of that. Don't serve me. I'm too old. I'm too young. Go ahead.
The first real test of the vote chori or that narrative will be in Bihar. Because the sense that I get is that this is essentially about some kind of voter awareness campaign which is happening in Bihar by the opposition. They are moving around telling that please go and speak to your BLAs, ensure that your name is there. It may not be the reason on which the vote will be cast. So I'm making that distinction that this will be the real test. Bihar elections will decide whether if the opposition that issue will lead to the vote.
Let's look at the Bihar numbers. Just a minute, Gaurav. I'll just get you and then you can respond to that. Let's look at the Bihar numbers. No, let's in this segment break down
nationalism.
Yes, yes. Gaurav is upset that I've suggested that nationalism has peaked as a vote-catching narrative.
On the contrary, we have to see what happens after this Trump tariff impact takes effect. Yes, there will be job losses, but will there be mitigating factors? Because post-COVID, while Modi's numbers went down or BJP's numbers went down in mood of the nation, ultimately they were able to swing back. Ultimately, they were able to come back on top once again with the steps that they took. Now it remains to be seen whether they're able to take those reforms that they're talking about.
Let me challenge you on that.
Sure.
In 2021, in our mood of the nation, that was the first time Mr. Modi's numbers and that of the BJP declined substantially in the back of COVID 2.0.
And
by
the
2024,
Chinese, yes,
when the Lok Sabha elections came, the BJP for the first time after a decade actually fell even below 250 seats on its own. They got 240. So there seemed to be in those months, eventually when actual elections took place, a decline. Now if these numbers hold, in the next 12 months, if the government doesn't get it right on a few issues, are we seeing a decline? Has the Modi BJP combined, and I use it Modi combined because there is a Modi vote out there, not just a BJP vote. Has it peaked or do you see a revival?
So do we see a revival post the election results of 2024 in Haryana and in Maharashtra and the RSS swinging in favor of the BJP and flipping things around for the BJP? So while there is BJP, there is Modi, there is also the RSS, and when they move in as a team, it becomes a very formidable combine, which will be tested once again in Bihar and in subsequent elections.
He is right in the way that is you see what we witnessed in Haryana and Maharashtra and even Jammu for that matter was that Modi as the election campaigner in chief took himself into the backseat.
Yes.
It was the organizational strength of the BJP and the RSS which pulled them out of the blues, So there are two aspects of this entire electoral game plan. One is that how much, the organizational muscle is coming in and how much is the Modi factor coming in. And I would just like to point upon what Amitabh said was very important. All our serious number crunchers, CSDS, us and others, colleagues as well, they have estimated about 25 to 33% of the BJP universe as the pro-Modi person, which is not ideologically centered. It is just Modi. It's the Modi dividend.
Let me just make that clear. CSDS said in 2019, 1 in every 3 voters voted for the BJP because of Modi. By 2024, it had come to 1 in 4.
1 in 4.
So it actually declined a bit. So I'm just asking you,
that's fine.
You see, one of the things from these numbers is that the BJP is so far ahead that nothing can change.
I'm just coming to that point. Just give me 30 seconds. I will come to that point. Because even by a 1/4 or 1/3 number within the BJP, that is the swing vote, I would say. Because it's not ideologically inclined. If you remember, Rajdeep, the lowest possible F for the BJP in the last 20 years, even when they lost 2009 election, was 20%, right? Lowest possible F for the Congress even was around the same 20%, which means, ideologically speaking, these two national parties are positioned at 20-20 each. Whatever BJP is getting beyond 20 to 25% is Modi factor. Now, as long as Mr. Rahul Gandhi is going to center his campaign around him individually, that swing is not going to happen. That is why Chaukidar Chor hai backfired. That is precisely why a personal campaign against Mr. Modi, Mr. Prime Minister, is never useful
True,
to
but
any
that
of
is
the
why
primary of the
Samvidhan
opposition
Khatre
candidates.
mein hai also worked. But Rajdeep, you know, somewhere down the line, if you look at when our last Mood of the Nation polls actually happened, it happened at the back of a win that was euphoric for the NDA. We were coming at the back of a 3-2 in elections which clearly, where the massive states were concerned, went in the favor of the NDA. So there was that impetus, there was that push, because some of those elections, the NDA technically, as per poll data, as per a lot of conversations in studio, were not elections that were meant to be won by the NDA. Maharashtra, Haryana, Delhi, all of them came back, right? So the NDA won it. There was a deep sense of euphoria. You did the poll. The NDA clearly was on top, and we see that kind of exaggerated
But
figures at that point in
There
time.
are two aspects to elections. One is narrative building, one is organization building. It's clear that the NDA or the BJP's organization remains at the moment so much formidably superior to that of the opposition. Therefore, when you actually come to election numbers, you always see wide gaps. Plus the Modi versus the rest factor. Mr. Modi still remains in most polls, including possibly this one, well ahead of his opponent. So keep that in mind.